Ron Mark.
Chair. Just stand to take another call on behalf of New Zealand First to clarify the issue, having finally got my head around it, Minister. The phantom clauses 7913A and 7913B. And I'm pleased I've persevered because it was just vexing me somewhat. I guess in summary what I now understand about this bill, and my colleague Derek Ball has so ably articulated this in his opening comments, but I need to go through these steps because it helps me understand what's happened here. This bill came to the House 2011, referred to the Select Committee 6 April 2011. As Derek Ball had said, there were a couple of submissions heard, and that the submissions closed on the 28th of April. A few submissions were heard and it was reported back to the House. It's now very clear to me that it sat and languished in the House from that point. And on the 17th of March 2015, we had presented to us SOP 56. On the 24th of March, which is that? 2 days ago. 2 days ago, we're presented with SOP 64. 64 seeks to amend 56. And it's within 56 that the phantom clauses that my people couldn't find, 7913A and 7913B reside, and it is those clauses that SOP 64 seeks to amend. It's like the amendment to the amended amendment, and so the story goes on. And what I've got to say is that it's quite astonishing because collectively between them, SOPs 56 and 64 are bigger than the original bill. How bizarre is that? And so I'm holding two pieces of paper here, and if I look at SOP 56 and SOP 64, and I hold up the original bill, they're bigger than the original bill. And yet the Parliament saw fit, the government saw fit to send the original bill to Select Committee to be examined. One would have thought that with such considerable amendments and then amendments to the amendments, that the government might well have said, well, let's refer this bill back to the Select Committee 4 years later, just to ensure that we had everything correct. And what we now know from the debate tonight, and my colleague Derek Ball has raised New Zealand First concerns about student loans and the impact on them, and we've had countless speakers from the Labor team once again raising their concerns. Everybody agrees, and this is the nonsense of it all. And please, government, please, Minister, after Sunday, let's reflect on how this House should be run. It is time to consult and talk to all the members of the House. Because if one does that, then we can iron out these things, and where we agree on stuff, we can move it through the House and save the taxpayer a whole of a lot of money, and that's something that I hear a lot of government members banging on about, wanting to save taxpayers' money and reduce compliance and reduce costs and reduce red tape. So what we have right now is we're moving through the House two amendments to the bill, which appear to be larger than the original bill, without having put them to Select Committee, and here this evening, you know, getting close to 9:30 at night, having to answer questions that we could have answered in Select Committee and progress this bill a lot smoothly. I'm comfortable with the Minister's explanation, and I thank the Minister very much for that. I would have liked to have seen a better response from the previous Minister on the other issues pertaining to Veterans Affairs and adjustments to social, Kiwi Saver legislation that went through. I don't think that's the end of the matter, because there are those of us who are always going to be conscious and wary about any legislation that is A, retrospective, and B, which impacts on veterans, particularly at a time when we're creating new veterans by dispatching more people off to war zones around the world. Because one thing we know for sure as members of Parliament, and I say so across the whole of the House, there is nothing more frustrating than trying to deal with officials and bureaucrats, be they at ACC or WINS, when trying to do the best by our veterans who have suffered maybe PTSD, maybe accidents that have then thrown them straight back into the ACC system, lost a foot, had an injury which one cannot recover from, a wound. There's nothing more frustrating than having to fight the bureaucracy and the red tape as an MP, and I say that on behalf of all MPs, because I know all MPs throughout the House struggle with those issues in their elected offices time and time again. But we struggle because we don't always get it right here. And we struggle because often we pass retrospective legislation, not thinking for 1 minute that there might be half a dozen 10, 12 people caught up adversely and having to pay the price down the line.
Dr. Parmjit Pamar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to take this call.